Hey everyone, I'm Jordan from the NSA Media team. I just want to thank you for making the What Have You podcast part of your weekly routine. To make it easier to keep up with each episode, the What Have You podcast will become its own channel starting in late January. To make sure you don't miss an episode, subscribe to the What Have You podcast in addition to the new St. Andrews podcast. Thanks again for listening, and enjoy the show.
Hear the world calling, but son, don't you listen. They're only trying to drag you back into prison, that's right.
It's What Have You time. I'm Rachel Jankovic.
I'm Becca Merkel.
And we're back to talk some more.
We're trying. It's once again, we're trying to do this on a Thursday afternoon, so we are facing perhaps some of the same challenges we faced several weeks ago on our bad one. Additionally, we're in the midst of a sloppy snowstorm.
It's the kind of snow where it's coming down in kind of like
Huge.
frisbee-sized gatherings
Huge
because
globs.
it's so wet that it's just...
And it splats on the ground.
It's like the whole thing it's doing is just kind of at you.
It was raining, really raining all morning, and then it got probably like half a degree colder, and it became big.
White rain?
Yeah, but big rain.
Yeah.
But it's actually starting to gather up speed on staying on the ground right now.
Yeah.
So
Who knows?
anyway, so here we sit.
We may have some sledding in our future. So, I guess we're supposed to talk about what we've been doing. What have you been doing?
Oh, I guess we're supposed to. Are we supposed to?
We used
What
to say
rules?
we would.
Yeah, what
Who's in
rules
charge
are
of
we
us?
abiding by?
Let's buck all these rules. Do you have nothing to say about what you've
Well,
been
what
doing?
have I been doing?
I think it's starting to be the same thing every week right now, so it's hard to really...
Yeah, well, I'm trying to get back into the rhythm of school, and this is always this is really funny because I teach 2 lit classes, and just the way it comes out. I mean, I teach some other classes too, but in both of the lit classes, we come back from Christmas. We're in the slop of January. It's gray, and there's no like festive holiday that we're all gearing up for. So, we're kind of all going to settle in and into the grim midwinter. And in Brit Lit, we start reading Hamlet.
Oh, yeah. Nice for a little pick-me-up.
For a little pick-me-up. And in classical lit, we commence the Greek tragedies.
Oh, perfect timing.
So I spend 2 hours a day wading through simultaneously Hamlet and the Agamemnon. And I have to say today the funniest thing happened because we read them aloud because with plays, they're kind of meant to be experienced in some way. So it's
I remember
not
that from high school and I loved it.
it's not like watching it, but we're participating, right? So we're going through the Agamemnon, and of all the tragedies that we read in our little unit, the Agamemnon is
The worst.
by far the toughest to get through because it's really kind of, it's just not got it going the way, like Oedipus Rex is actually quite brilliant and stuff. And, so anyway, we're muscling through the Agamemnon and the chorus portions, I make the whole class reads the chorus portions. Or if we're in the section where it's like long sections where there's the strophes and antistrophes, the guys will read one paragraph and then the girls read one and then the guys read one. And then you cut to the actors. Well, this class today, I was like wheezing. I was laughing so hard because they got the wind in their sails, as they always do, because this is a windy class.
Yeah.
They're just a hoot. And they started singing the chorus bits to like random tunes. So they would be like smashing the words into Yankee Doodle or the ABC tune, and you cannot imagine how morbid it makes it because it's like the chorus singing about the butchered children slain, and they're doing it to Yankee Doodle.
The tunes of Yankee Doodle.
And I have to admit, it sparked a little bit more, it was a little spicier than it normally would be when we're slogging through the Agamemnon. And I would just be like, oh no, what are you doing now? And I don't know how they would decide amongst themselves, but they would kick off the next verse and it'd be some like horrifying, like tragic thing that they're singing about, and then it would come out to the, or they were on a Christmas kick. So a number of them were like, deck the halls, you know,
Oh,
that kind
dear.
of, yeah, it was amazing. It was a really hilarious thing. Anyway, at home, we're still working on our kitchen, and I'm still trying to get my entryway done. And
Right.
I'm still planning more events, and
Yeah.
you know, that's where I am. That's what I'm doing, and I'm failing to design and order the fabric for throw pillows for my living room.
So I'm still on my bread box kick for all the time, but I'm realizing something that came up in the book that I'm reading. That
Which book is this? The house cleaning book
yeah.
from last week.
yeah, same one.
Okay, I'm
That-
still reading it too.
It's good. Something that came up in it that I thought was. It's funny because there's things that I'm like, oh, I've actually thought about this before, but in different ways.
Yeah.
But she says to pay attention to your put away style. And she says one of the biggest messes that happen for people is when their organization does not match their natural put away style.
Yeah.
And she said make sure that you match that. And she said, for instance, they always hung hooks on the wall for coiled extension cords. And she said, but we are not the people who coil extension cords that we're done with.
Okay.
And she said, so we would end up not putting it away. We would put it on the
Okay.
floor to coil later.
Sure. So
She
just
said,
get
so
buckets?
if you change it to like a bucket that you chuck your extension cord in,
Uh-huh.
then the messy thing is your organized thing.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually I remember this back when I had more, not when I had more little kids. I had less kids, but I had less bigger kids.
Sure.
And the dominant feature were the little people. And at that time I had those I had like the Sterilite drawer, the little ones that are like the size of office paper.
Yeah.
I had those in the top shelf of the closet, and I had them sorted by like little Lego set, and there was like a little bit of Playmobil, and there was little calico critters and one
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And so I would pull a tray out, like when they had a quiet time, they could pick, like when they were gonna have a quiet time on their bed, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say you can pick one of the little toys, and like so they'd pick one,
Sure.
and I'd pull the whole tray out and put it on their bed, and then they could play with it, and then I would pick it back up when they would pick it up.
Right.
But the reason that I picked that system, as opposed to a lot of different little closed bins, is that inevitably when you're sweeping and you sweep a calico critter and a Playmobil and a little something, it needs to be the easiest thing in the world to
Yeah.
put them back where they go,
Yeah.
instead of, shoot, now I have a pile of mixed things and now I
Yeah.
don't this. And I really like the kids' toys to actually be separated by
Type.
genre,
Yeah.
because that it makes it
Makes
a
it more
million
fun
times
to
more
play
fun.
with,
Yes, and nicer
it's
to
true.
look at, and easier to be like, let's pull this out of the loop for right now, instead of
Well, one of the things she said in this book that got me thinking, and I'm not really sure why, because I don't think I'm going to do this particular thing, but she said she was talking about getting rid of stuff, and she did hit the nail on the head for me, because I will make the pile, like,
And not
this
take
is
it
the
out.
pile, well, it's like, this is the pile I want to get rid of, but it's not sorted into, this I'm going to throw away because it's old and stained, this I'm going to take to the thrift
Yes,
store,
right.
this I'm going to take maybe to consignment, like,
yeah.
and so it sits there in a pile, and I failed to move the whatever
Yeah.
the pile out. And she was talking about that problem, and she said if you just can't deal with it, or you just can't get rid of it yet, stick it in a box and label it maybe, and put it somewhere for 6 months, and then at the end of 6 months you have to address it. And she was saying, and sometimes for people, they're ready to just move it down the river at that point. But that's not the point. But it made me realize, if I was going to do that and stick it like in the attic, I couldn't, because my attic is a mess. And so I have now resolved to go and clean out my attic. And I don't think I need a maybe box. It wasn't about that, but it just gave me that, like, you know what? Because there's a lot of things that are down in the middle of my life that I really should bin up and put somewhere, but I don't really have, our house doesn't have great storage. The attic is kind of, it's
Yeah.
either the attic or the basement. And the attic has become a rat's nest of evil, because when the children have things that they just don't really know what to do with, they might go up and stick in the attic, and I don't ever go up and look. So
Yeah.
whenever I do, I get this horribly demoralized feeling, and I go back down again. So I think, or the other thing she was talking about, and I do this one too, I'll save things for a yard sale, but then I never have a yard sale. So then you just have the bag of
Yeah,
things.
I go in different phases. Sometimes if I know I'm gonna have a yard sale, then I also start saving things. But funnier than that is if you really know a yard sale's coming, start pricing them while you're saving them, and start. But I haven't done that in a while.
No.
Because it became important to me to get it out of my to-do list.
But
I was like, this is a monkey that needs to not be on my bag.
No, and see, what I had for a bit was like, okay, I put in big black garbage bags, a bunch of clothes. We went through everybody's clothes, purged stuff out, threw it in bags. It was going to be for a yard sale. I stuck them away off to the side. But inevitably, someone will go in and be like, what's in this bag? And they'll be like, whoa, look at all these clothes. Look at that. I forgot I had. And anyway, out they come again. So...
Oh, that's funny. I like to move along quickly, but this reminds me of a lot of the time in my life. I am cleaning the main areas, like, because you're making food, cleaning up the living room, doing laundry. I'm like in the center of the field, in
Right.
the high scoring points on the dartboard.
Yeah.
That's where I am most of the time.
Yeah.
But I have this rhythm where after a certain amount of time of doing that, I totally ignore the whole central place. And I do major day of, like, I go through everybody's closets and pull
Sure.
stuff out.
Yeah.
And then you can do another clean of the middle, and it's
Yeah.
like, wait, now everything's clean.
Yeah, that's
now
good.
I know that I'm not just doing a
And
weird...
see, I'm doing I need to start from the top of my house in the attic and work my way down to the bottom of my house in the basement. Basically, with a wheelbarrow going straight out to the truck to throw it in the back.
I often, in the spring, I tend to start dreaming dreams about renting a construction dumpster.
Yeah. Why don't we
But
both go in?
that's
You
in
can
my,
have it.
it's in my mood when I'm planning on throwing away all the furniture
Yeah,
and
everything.
We don't need any of this.
No,
What nonsense.
It's much better to
We
live
just
without.
need the gentle scent of ammonia in the distance. That's all that we really want in life anyways. So, yes, anyways. So, I'm working still on the cleaning and the rhythms of
Yeah,
life.
me too. I am working on it, but
Oh, I said that about the bread box. This is what got us on this trail. About the bread box, what I was saying is that I love it for my Bible and stuff, but I ordered a shorter little one that's white, that's really, really cute.
yeah, you told
That
us
I-
about this one.
I did on the podcast.
Yeah, you already did this
Oh,
one.
wow, nice. Well, anyways, now my next stop is I want 2 big white ones to go on bedside tables, because I was like, what if I had one for, like, phone charging cord, things that you tend to have, like, piles of books, like, but you want them there because that's where you use that, like your
Interesting.
chapstick or...
When you say a big one, how big are we talking about? Like,
You know, it's actually just kind of the one that has my Bible in it. I don't have a small Bible, so it's a decent sized leather Bible, but it's stacked in there with, like, my leather Bible and then another big journal, and then it's not I don't journal, but I'm talking whatever. It's a quote book, but I like that.
a blank book.
I feel worried about needing you all to know I'm not journaling every day about what I wore and what's coming up. So anyways, and then another Bible, and then it's like a whole stack of books, and then there's still room for my pens and a whole other stack of books.
Yeah.
So
okay.
really, it's plenty of room for all the things
Sure.
that you might wish you had right by your bed,
Interesting.
and I was realizing that that's a place that it was just like, oh, I
Yeah, that
should
could be really
totally
good.
just change
This
the routine.
is Amazon,
here.
right? Is that where you're?
Yeah, it's on
getting this
Amazon.
from?
I know it's silly, except for I brought up the put away style because that is exactly. It doesn't change anything because it just flips the lid open and closed.
Right, it's
so
just right there.
it's just as easy as putting it in an So
That's
my
interesting.
that's
I
my
like
next
this idea.
stop on the bread box organizing. I'm gonna write a
Yeah.
book called "Organize Your Life in Bread Boxes."
Bread boxes. Is it smaller than a bread box? Then put
Get-
it in.
And this is my bread box of socks. And here's my.
I'm gonna do the same thing, but with like wine racks.
Yeah.
Like, here's what I've done. I've cubby
Oh my
holed
word!
everything.
How much is that the thing about those? Like every article that's like all of your household hacks that will totally change everything.
Oh my word.
There might be like 1 in
Save-
35 that
Save
is.
all of your duct tape roll cords.
It'll be like, it's like, no, save twist ties from bread bags so that you can repair Christmas ornaments.
So you
You're
can
like,
make
what?
a wind chime,
It's the worst.
which is going, yeah.
It's the worst.
Uh-huh.
Anyways.
No, I don't. But sometimes you run across one of those and you're like, well, that was worth it. It was worth going through 33
Clicking through
other
the whole
bad
dang
ideas,
slideshow trying to figure it
trying
out.
to find one thing that was a takeaway.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of that, give us a takeaway that you like from something like that. One of those little life hacks that you enjoy doing.
Hot.
Do you have any?
Like a
bread box.
A
How
random
about that?
tricksy
I
thing?
guess use
Why
bread
do you
boxes.
have one?
No, but I feel like we tell each other these all the time. I'll be
Uh-huh.
like, you know what, I'm trying and it's working really awesome.
Yeah. We
Do
do.
we ever do
We're in
that?
a constant state of tip exchanging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but whenever it comes time here to drum
I
up a
want to
tip,
know. No. Yeah, that we can't think of them.
Yeah.
We cannot. Oh man.
Yeah.
I feel like I should know this, but I don't right now.
You know, I feel like both of us, maybe we talked about this, I'm not sure we did. Both of us kind of had our minds blown by, I read an article on how to properly mop, and I immediately, called you to be like, Rach.
Oh, and I
My
did
life
it, like,
has
while
been
we were
changed.
still on the
Yeah.
phone. I was trying
And both
it.
of us were, on the phone going,
I
how to mop. And
It's the great
and
2-bucket mopping
the
system.
2-bucket mop.
I do it every Monday.
Have we talked about this on
I
the podcast?
feel like we have.
Have we?
I do it every Monday, and I try to do it on Thursdays.
I don't know if we have, but I felt like I really always enjoy it when you figure out, there.
Well,
there.
it's because you.
that.
It's because I think that's because it was much like me learning to crochet. I hated it because when I was learning, I don't actually know why. Maybe no one who knew was teaching me. I'm not sure.
You were holding your thread too tight.
No, it was just like there seemed to be no rules. Like you just stab the hook in anywhere and out comes something. And then and I didn't like it because I felt like, well, how do I know I went through the right hole?
Sure.
How do I, and I talked to someone who was like, oh, well, it doesn't really matter. And I'm like, it must. I mean, like, how can it not matter? And like, I felt like I didn't know what I was doing wrong, but I was sure I was doing stuff wrong. And there's a lot of things in life where you feel like there is actually the right way to do this. And that has been lost probably through many tips and things. It has been lost until I felt like I didn't actually know the right way to mop a floor. You have a zillion different methods or ideas.
Well, okay, this is related. I am working up to the mopping thing. I have always had a thing about washing dirty dishes in a sink full of water because I think it's so disgusting to have horrid, dirty, sloppy, greasy water that you have all of your dishes in. So I have had many years of not having a dishwasher in my life, but I never fill the sink with water and with all the dirty dishes in it because I just find it kind of gross. And I feel like the same has always been true of mopping for me. Like, your mop bucket is so disgusting, and you put your mop in it, and then you get that water out, and then you smear it all over your floor. And it always felt to me like, how is this an improvement? Like, it gets the sticky stuff off or whatever.
I always feel like
it's
sometimes
using
the
a
color
really-
of your mop water, it's hard to not take it as a direct personal insult.
Yes.
Where
but
you're
it's
like, stop saying that about me.
If you had a really gunky, nasty sponge and you went to wipe down the dining room table with it, that's what it always felt like to me. So when I finally had this eureka moment about the mopping, but I think the 2-bucket was an innovation that you and I came up with out of this article about mopping. So
No.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was because
I don't think
yeah,
so.
it was. I'm pretty positive because I remember
Surely
calling you
not.
here's the good idea that I have. This is the
I don't
lady.
think we made that up. I'm pretty sure because I was right off the bat. I remember being like, "Where's another bucket? I need
No,
another
because that's
bucket."
what I was calling you to say. What if we did it with 2? So the thing is you get a string
I'm
mop.
confident that this is not our innovation.
Well, I'm not saying we're the only ones who have thought of it.
That's all right.
I'm
Let's
just
go
saying
ahead
that,
and tell the people
the
'cause
original
they don't
article.
care about
no, they
who
don't
patented
care.
it.
Who gets the footnote? So
Who gets the glory for the 2-bucket
that
mop
nameless
system?
that nameless article that I found. No, it's where you get your hot soapy water in a bucket and you get your string mop. And that's the thing is it's a string mop. It's not one of those sponge mops. And then you fill your mop with water, but you do not wring it out.
No, stop. You fill your buckets halfway full with hot, one with soapy water, one with clear water.
Yeah, okay, you
Then
tell
you
it.
dip the mop in the soapy water.
Yep.
And you don't wring it out. You just slop the hot soapy water
Straight on.
onto the floor in an area. If you're in a
Unlike-
hurry, the bigger the area.
Yeah, but you kind of are going for like, maybe a square yard.
Yeah, it's not that much, but
Yeah.
but I go for more than that often because I have more water.
Yeah,
than
because
that.
you've got like a
So-
full mop drippy work.
And it's hot, and I love seeing my floor steam
Okay.
at
Yeah.
this phase.
Yeah.
And so you swab it all around, spreading it out. Then you rinse the mop out and wring it out in the clear water,
In the clear water.
which will no longer be clear. And then you
But
wring
you
the
wring
mop
it all
out.
the way out.
You wring it out, and then you go back to soak up all of the water that you slopped. But because the hot water has been sitting there on the floor, it like soaks any little
Yeah.
grungy things. So when you pick it
So
all
it's
up, it
just been there
actually
for a
picks
second.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it picks it all up, but it also, I keep finding milk stains appear in the water that I didn't know were on the floor. It's weird. Like
Yeah.
it turns milky again. Anyways,
So then you
swab
pick
it
the
all
water
up,
up.
then you rinse it again. Then you go back
But
to
you
the
wring it out.
rinse
Wring
it, wring it out,
in your.
then dip it in the soap, then soap on the floor.
But the
then,
thing is that then you've wrung out all the dirty water into your cast-off bucket,
yes.
and then you put it into the clean water bucket, and you put
right.
it on the
so
floor
what
again.
what ends up happening is I have a bucket full of filthy rinsed
Yeah.
mop bucket, and then but the soapy water is still clear.
Yeah, or it gets a little
Well,
bit tainted.
yeah, but it's nowhere
but
near
it's
what
not
the
nearly as bad.
Yeah.
So you continue to put nice water on the floor, wring it out, and in your cast-off bucket, then soak the water back up, put it
Right.
in your bad bucket. And
So
then,
I do it. I
yeah.
do this on Mondays, and then I try to do a Thursday, like a light mopping version. Today's Thursday, and I'm not doing it, so that's how much I stand by that rule. But I try, if I do it, that I cover a bigger area when I do it. Like I
See-
do, instead of more scrubby in one area, I only usually when I do it, I have to change the bucket like 1 or 2 times
Yeah.
on the main.
Right.
And if I do a quick mop, I don't change.
But
it
I
that
just
much.
something about that, like just putting the nice, clean, soapy water on the floor and picking all the gross water up and keeping it one place.
What sold me on this
Ugh.
was when I spilled something on the floor shortly after and wiped it up with a paper towel, and it was not dirty.
Yeah.
I was
And
like,
see,
what?
The thing is,
What?
like, I had years and years ago, I bought one of those. It looks like a vacuum, but it's like for mopping floors where you fill the tank with soapy water. And it was supposed to always clean with the clean water, and then all the gross water comes into a canister that you then dump out. And the thing that appealed to me about it was the
Yeah.
fact that you could just throw the dirty water away. But it was foul and disgusting and depraved, that mop water was. It was so gross. And I feel like it broke fairly soon, and it was just,
Yeah.
so
I'd
anyway.
like to point out how long we've been talking about this because it's really easy for us to talk
I know.
at interminable lengths about things like this. So,
But notice we didn't draw any morals from it, but we could. Can we think
Would
of
you
any,
like us to?
any metaphors about
Yes.
the dirty soap
I have.
water?
Okay, here's a good one. Here's a good one. This is about why you need to read your Bible yourself instead of being women who only apply scripture that filtered down to them through several people who are reading their Bibles, and someone finally wrote a blog post.
Or put it on a Pinterest printable.
Yeah. Or I read that
I
article.
don't know how you're tying that to mop water.
I'm talking about go straight to the clean water source,
Oh,
not
sure, yeah.
not to the
Yeah,
don't
there you
let it
go.
all get muddied. And then, but that reminds me of something, and I think Dad shared an article about empathy that was awesome, and it was an amazing article. But
I
one
just
of-
saw the title was great. It was "Empathy is not charity."
Yeah, but this was a takeaway that I thought was crazy. It said that it's been proven that empathy is something that you can exercise to grow, that you can grow your empathy.
Okay.
Like you can become a more and more empathetic person by exercising it constantly.
Okay.
The article makes some great points about how, because we're Trinitarian, we do believe in unity and brotherly love, but we have a clear definition of where I end and you begin.
Okay.
Like we actually believe that we can be separate people that are still tied together.
Okay.
But one of the things that the article said that I thought was incredible, was that it's been shown that nurses, so a position that
Yeah.
requires much charity and kindness and consideration of people. That nurses who are more empathetic, like that they tracked some nurses who are very empathetic by nature, end up spending more time trying to be comforted themselves than taking care of the patients.
I was
Like,
going to say it would cripple you.
It does because if you're taking on the burden, you're also the person in it who needs help instead of being a person who can actually give it and is equipped to do that. It was a great article. It's
that's interesting.
well worth the read. But
That's cool.
well, the thing that we were going to talk about that I was going to talk about, well, we were going to talk about it, but we talked about it in our Super Duddy episode, so we want to see if we can do it in a split.
through a
Yeah, I'm
yawn.
sorry, guys, sorry. It's the heat in this car. I
It's
should
not.
turn
It's
this
cozy.
down.
I'm feeling
No,
cozy.
Becca likes a hot air balloon.
I'm cozy.
Yeah, you
You've got
are.
your seat heater on. You could turn that off if you
Oh,
don't
I
like
should.
it.
That's the thing about these hot seats. You forget
Yeah.
that you're in them.
I do love
All right.
a hot seat.
So, anyways, Avista is our power company here. And
She's naming names now,
it's
guys.
a local kind. Yeah, I assume that Avista is only doing this because of some dumb government regulation or something about helping us all be
Oh, yeah.
more green. But anyways, they send out these letters periodically rating you on your
basically
eco-friendly
like
performance.
Public shaming, but slightly less public.
Private public shaming.
Yeah.
But they send it to you and it's
comes
like every
across-
time it's so judgy pants.
But it comes across like letters that say, "I know your secret."
Yes, and the funny part about it to me is that they're like, instead of the fruit basket we obviously should have sent you for being our best customer, we're sending you a snark. Like
Yeah,
we're
it
sending
says-
you a rude remark.
Well, they compare you. They say like, compared to all the other people on your block,
Compared
you,
to all of your neighbors.
yeah,
You are the
use
worst.
3,000% more energy than they do. You are number 100 out of 100 customers.
We always win. We
Oh,
universally
but see,
we clear out the neighborhood.
So do we,
on
but
those.
I suspect Avista is making things up because everyone I know is told that they're the worst on the block. So,
But I think everyone we know probably is the worst on the block.
well, it's possible.
I think that we are in a high energy output group. And the reason is because, so for instance, I'll get these reports from our neighborhood and they're like out of 100 houses or
Yeah.
something.
yeah,
They're
you're
like,
number
your
101.
number, you're the one that tops the charts. Like we can't even hear notes that high. That's what they send us these messages.
But it's so funny because it means we provided more service to you than anyone else.
No, we didn't. You paid us.
Yeah, that's
you
what I
paid
mean.
us for more power.
Yeah, so like, why are they complaining?
And I'd just like to point out that Avista is water power, which is energy that is coming from the Spokane River and some other river areas, I'm assuming, because Idaho's a
I don't
river
know.
state. It's a very renewable energy source. It's not like we're burning coal over at our house. They're not like... Have you noticed that we had to bring you 6 semis full of coal this month? We would have noticed.
You're
if they
turning the
had done that.
neighborhood black with
Yes,
soot.
you're ruining everything. But instead, they just send us these little malicious, like monthly reports on how bad we are at things. And I don't really care. I
No.
really can't say I care. Although sometimes I look at it and I'm like, what? Like what, Avista? Because I'm like, in our neighborhood, I'm like, oh, well, there's the 2 houses that I've never seen anyone at ever in my whole, like, I don't know if anyone belongs there.
Right.
Then there's the overseas missionary vacant home next to us. Then there's the one that never has a light on and is often gone for long periods of time. And there's a little lady around the corner who I don't even know her, but I love her for, I think she had like 11 kids and she lives by herself now. She's a widow. But there are always tons of people. There's like tons of traffic, like different
Yeah.
people mowing her lawn and different people showing up.
Yeah.
And like on holidays, cars everywhere. Like I love
Yeah.
it. But her normal garbage day is one little plastic bag from the grocery store with a knot tied on it out on the curb.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? We have
Yeah.
much more garbage. But anyways, back to these missives that Avista sends us to shame us. The thing that bothers me about them, which aside from the dumb government regulations and whatever that's driving them to do this to us. But the thing that bothers me is that they're trying to shame you on something that is a totally false measurement in the first place.
Yeah.
So they're saying you're the least efficient.
Yeah, that's the
out
word
of all
that
of
they
your
used.
out of all of your neighbors, you are the one who is not at all efficient.
Yeah.
And this is the word that they're using. And this is that my fundamental beef with this is that you're saying efficient, but efficiency, you have to have more data points to know. And the data point that they're missing, they know how much energy we are expending,
Right.
but they have no idea what we're doing with it.
They don't know
They're
the
not
output.
saying they're not saying like out of 100 neighbors who also baked 40 loaves of bread and fed 10 people 30 times and did this and had
Yeah.
another group over and dried how many hundreds of pairs of pants have I dried in 1 month? You
Yeah.
know, like the way we're using our energy, you can't measure the efficiency of
No,
it.
it's like saying you used 7 gallons of gas, therefore you're a gas hog. When this person only used 1, but it's like actually you need more data. You need to know how far did you drive.
You have to know what the purpose was. What did we accomplish with this
So-
energy to know if it was
so
efficient or not?
Miles per gallon is a meaningful. That is a meaningful statistic
Distance covered for the fuel that
for
you
the
took.
fuel. But when you just look at merely the fuel, you have no idea if you're being efficient
Right.
or not efficient.
And the reason that I brought this up is because
This, in
I
case
don't
you missed
actually
it, guys,
care that much about the electrical
No.
side of life.
It's a metaphor, guys.
It's a metaphor, but people do care about this, and it's easy to think that you're being inefficient because you spend a lot on your heating bill, or you're inefficient because your food budget is way higher than a single woman's.
Or you're
Or-
inefficient because your laundry pile is big.
Yes, or you say, it's like saying, well, the most efficient way to keep your toothbrushes in order is to stop using them. Like, and it's perfectly accurate that is the most efficient
Yeah.
way to not mess up your toothbrushes and to keep them in the same place is to never use it. But what value is that to you?
So the point is not the Avista, but basically, like, it's easy to measure your own achievements in the same
in
exact
a
way.
completely false light.
Where
And
you're looking at, like, my living room never got messed up once.
that would be true housekeeping. Like,
Yeah.
that would be my
Right.
best job.
But which is
doing that.
basically like saying if I parked the car in the driveway, it would be the most fuel efficient.
Well, and it
would.
would be, but it sort
Well,
of.
it would be the cheapest.
It would be the way to not use any fuel. That's what it would be the way to do.
Right.
And the thing that God gave us these tools to do things with. Like, and that it's funny because out of all the houses that they're measuring me against, like, I don't know, I don't think many of them have a mom who's home all day.
Well,
Like, they don't have people in their house all day. I have people in the house, in the oven going,
That's one of the
and
things I've always
the dryer
wanted to do.
going, and like they have no idea how many people are in this home.
No.
How much, like, nothing.
Or even if you were measuring the same, like this house has 2 people in it and this house has 2 people in it. But one of them you have somebody home all day and the other one both people are at work all day. Well, they're both using energy. It's just not being
One of
measured
them is
right
on the
here.
office bill. Yeah.
It's showing up somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's not really the point, though. The point is not so much about Avista and the gas bill.
No, I find it funny of Avista, but my point is that, like, one time my husband said about something. I don't remember. It might have been when I was reading and talking with him about reading the Life-Changing Magic,
Yeah.
that one. And it was like, it's just this, I really think it's just idolatry, but it's just the idolatry of thinking that something reflects some kind of value on yourself, like where you're like, look in this kitchen drawer and see how streamlined and simple and orderly this is. And he said, I think it was about that, but I don't know. But anyways, Luke's comment was like, I really don't care how organized all the kitchen drawers look. Tell me what kinds of things you're making. Like, and it was a metaphor when he said that, not just about the food, but about with the kids and about other things. It's like, what fruit are you getting? And that is the whole point of the fuel in the first place. Like, the whole reason God gave us these tools and this energy and this stuff to use is for us to do things with it. It's like the
And
talent in the ground.
Yeah, how many of Jesus's parables are focused on that exact thing? About, like, you've been given this amount. Now show me what you're going to do with it. Show me the increase.
And you're like, what I'm going to do with it is absolutely
I'm going to
nothing.
bury it in the ground.
Nothing, Lord.
so
I'm
that
going to
it
come
will
back.
not
You're going to
be-
come back, and you'll find out that we kept all the lights off the whole time. We sat around in the dark
because
doom.
we confused what efficiency means.
Right, and I think it's relevant in your life, whatever you're doing, is just thinking, wait, like, efficiency is a great thing to think about, because the whole concept is not wasting your time, not wasting your
Yep.
whatever.
Yep.
But you can only know that if you actually know what the fruit is
If you're
and what the
measuring
purpose is.
productivity as well as
Right. So, for
Yeah.
instance, if I was in a real habit of napping the day away, or if I like to go turn the kiln on with nothing in it, or just ran the oven for ambiance with nothing going through it, then maybe I would need to be convicted about that. But the reality is that you're like, if you're just working all the time trying to be faithful,
Yeah.
that you don't need to be measuring
Yeah.
with a lot of pained expressions
But also,
how
there's-
bad you
I
look in the
think-
neighborhood.
No, and there was. I do think oftentimes there's a bit of a panic that everybody has about. There's this like fixed amount of resource, and the more I use, the quicker we're gonna run out. You know, like I think that's the thing that people stress out about, and then they get kind of shamed into.
Well,
I
like if I
better-
had my lights on, it's like I took it from someone in a third world country
Right.
and used it
Right.
forever.
Oh, one of my favorites was there was a little advertisement in England about if you leave your office light on all night, I can't remember, it measured the amount of energy you used. You could have heated like 2,000 cups of tea or 20,000 cups of tea. I don't know. But I always looked at that and I was like, but it's not like 2,000 cups of tea went unheated because you kept your light on.
Okay, you had one job to turn off your light so we could have tea.
And I don't mind people turning their light off. It's just that I think that there is a funny sleight of hand people do. And it's not about fuel or energy, like
No,
actual
but this
fuel.
ties in with people treating kids as consumers instead
Yes.
of producers.
Mhm.
That when your kids are little, they are consumers. That's primarily what you're doing, is feeding them and growing them up. But that's not their. People are not strictly consumers.
Right.
They produce things. So you're not like. It's not like the imprint of a child on the world is the imprint of like one more taker.
Well,
it's
that's
like,
what-
one more giver. What does
That's
it
what
say? We're born
Dad
with two
says.
hands, right?
Yeah, Dad's thing about like we're all born with one mouth and two hands.
Yeah.
Like we are consumers, but we are also producers. And I think the point is to be a producer. Because by definition,
And not to be
we're all
feeling guilty
consumers,
about
yeah.
the fact that you have to eat while you are working.
But again, like if you're being wildly inefficient, truly inefficient, like nothing gets done, then if you use
No.
7 gallons of gas and you only got down
Right.
the block,
It's
that
just,
actually is
I
very
can tell
inefficient.
you. I can tell you about a time that I wasted gas. I'll tell you.
Tell me.
So Luke came home. No, who among us is really at fault? This was a while ago, and it was very funny. And now I hope I can remember the details now that I'm trying to tell it. Luke ran home for lunch.
Okay.
Something came up, like maybe it was a kid needed to be picked up or something. Like something changed the plan.
Mhm.
We decided to go together
Yeah.
to get this child. So we took the other car. He came home in the Sequoia. We took the other car. Then he needed to get back to the office, so I just dropped him off.
Yeah.
Then I went like to Mom's and like to the grocery store. Came home, unloaded the car, put the kids down for a nap. Was making dinner. So at this point, it's like 5:30, and he came home at like 12, maybe. And I went outside for something and realized that his car was still running. That he had pulled up in front of our house at lunchtime and just run in for something when we changed the plan and we left, leaving the car running. And that I came home and made several trips out to the car right past the running car and didn't notice it. But so that was a time that we were not
That you
fuel
used-
efficient.
Well,
We
it's
were
like the
going
time-
nowhere, and it was not worth the expense.
It's like the time we left town for like 3 days. and our front door was not locked. We didn't lock it. And
On purpose or not on purpose?
well, it's just, it's the kind of town we live in, It's like
Yeah.
we might lock the door, but we might not. And in this
Uh-huh.
case, we didn't. But our door has a funky latch on it, and so it, unless you really give it a particular slam, it doesn't actually latch. So we came home from a 4-day journey to find our front door flung wide open, and there's no screen on
You're
it.
like, are there raccoons within?
There
Have
was
we done
no
it all?
screen. So it
Was
was
your
just-
second door closed?
I think so. On the other hand, I felt like what would deter burglars more than that? Because you wouldn't think that anyone would be actually
Don't burgle
out
here.
of town when they left their door flung wide. But anyway, who knows if we had the heater on? But Avista probably would have had words with us if we did.
Oh, they
Leave
would
our
have.
heater
They
on.
probably would have had a word with you.
Exactly.
All right, so do you have a book recommend?
Oh, a book recommend. Well, the Agamemnon for
Oh,
sure.
yeah, sing it to
Try
Yankee
and-
Doodle to
try
give
and
yourself a little
sing,
pick-me-up.
Greek tragic,
The
choral
Greek tragedies
bits.
are just the pits.
Some of them are kind of genius because Oedipus is
Oh, I just remember
Hideous.
Antigone. I had to write a paper about
she's yawning
Antigone,
still.
and it's just what?
Was your yawning still?
I'm sorry,
It's
it puts
good.
me right
It's
out.
good.
So Antigone, though, it's just like, really now?
Except for Oedipus.
Really
Think about
now?
this
Well,
for a
Oedipus
second.
is worst.
No, it's not. I think it's actually very clever because you have, it's sad
No,
and hideous
it's
and
the
grotesque.
pits. It is the pits.
But think of it from the perspective of a detective story, which it really is, because it opens with Oedipus as the detective trying to solve the murder in the city that is
Yeah.
causing this plague, and he's trying to solve it, and he's gathering witnesses, and he's doing all this stuff, and he himself is the murderer, and he doesn't know.
He doesn't know it.
But
and
the thing is, everyone in the crowd already does. And so the kind of horror of like seeing it gradually like fall down the stairs.
Okay, but it's hideous.
As he becomes more and more suddenly like, wait, and it turns out it's him in the end.
But it's the worst.
Yeah, but clever. I mean, think like having
Clever.
the detective turn out to be the criminal and he didn't know. Like that's
I think
actually not bad.
having the detective turn out to have married his mother and killed his father without knowing he did either of those things.
That is a.
That's dark.
It's a dog.
That is like the special sea of darkness that only the Greek tragedies could have picked up on.
Well, the Greek tragedies, they did. They went deep into some of those horrid places. But I'm just saying, well, okay, so in the golden age of detective fiction, which was like between the world wars in England,
That would have been like Dorothy Sayers, Agatha
Dorothy
Christie.
Sayers, Agatha Christie, G.K. Chesterton, and they had this group of them that would get together in London for a supper club.
Wouldn't
and
that
they
have
were-
been just so fun
Yeah.
to
And they
get
were,
to listen in on
yeah,
this?
and they were called, they called themselves the Detection Club, I think, and they would come and read their stories and stuff. But they came up with the 10 Commandments that they all had to abide by. Well, and then there was this hilarious oath that they had to swear as like admittance into the Detection Club. And their oath was written probably either by Chesterton or Sayers. And it has something about, I hereby swear that my detective shall well and truly use the wits I bestow upon him, or, something like that. Not using, I think, jiggery pokery, feminine intuition, or acts of God, or something. Like, he can't solve his crimes by means of... Anyway,
Interesting.
These 10 Commandments, they're actually really great because they were treating writing detective stories as sort of a game, and these are the rules of the game. And it's easy to write a mystery, but it's hard to unravel it without cheap tricks.
Well,
So-
it's the classic, like, it's the...
So one of the rules, one of the 10 Commandments is that you cannot have twins or doubles unless the reader has been suitably prepared for them. So you can't just
you
suddenly
can't be
have
like, guess what?
It's
What's
like,
it?
haha.
I was going to say,
can't-
because isn't that a Father Brown has the twins?
Well, you can have twins if
If everyone
you're
knows
suitably
they're
prepared.
twins.
But the thing is, like, they're trying to eliminate, like, easy outs for the author.
Yeah.
And which are also frustrating for the reader because it's like
Yeah,
you
'cause
couldn't
you don't get
possibly
condemned
have
on that.
guessed.
Luke and I watched a show one time that was, I don't even remember what the name of it was, but for whatever reason, it actually, hooked us in the like, how are they going to make this
Yeah.
work? Like, and
Yeah.
and you really were like, I need to know
Right.
the explanation of this. Like,
Yeah.
this is magically weird. Like,
Yeah.
what happened? And you're like waiting to
Yeah.
find out. And they actually pulled the like, it was all a dream.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Like, and then I woke up and we were like, you're telling me that the authors never knew how they were going to
No.
fix it.
No,
Like, because
and
it
that's
was
the thing.
obviously a last minute
Mhm.
effort to just
Yeah.
sort of change the subject.
So the Detection Club, they were trying to make rules so that the author had to be legitimately clever in how they solve the
Right.
crimes. So they had like, you can't have twins. You're allowed one secret passage or hidden room, but no more.
Per
You-
story?
per
or-
story.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't. It said, and then one of them is the detective himself cannot commit the crime. So I'm like, see, Oedipus is like the earliest detective story,
Uh-huh.
and he is the criminal, which is interesting. But yeah, it's all stuff where they're eliminating the frustrating little, or one is like you can't have the person be killed by any like hitherto undiscovered poisons or anything that requires a long scientific explanation at the end.
Nice. Well,
Which is
something
funny.
that I feel like needs to come up because of what you said and because of what I said earlier about empathy is that how that has ruined much of our like popular level crime fiction or movies, like the crime shows.
Okay.
And the reason that we like won't watch them or can't tolerate them generally if we do watch part of one is that the increased like now there's this major disrespect for rule of law, due process, how like, and they constantly are showing cops that you're supposed to sympathize with not following the law because they know this is a bad guy or this is someone like the ultimate evil in our society now is the criminal that got away with something because people were following the rules.
So
I believe it's because there's all this empathy that it's like a majorly empathy driven thing where you feel so bad for the victim that you can't possibly let like I'm not saying it's always like that, but the point is that they commonly are trying to get you to be on the side of what really is a completely corrupt detective
interesting.
or cop and
So-
completely corrupt because they're doing whatever they think is right, not enforcing laws that have centuries of
Yeah.
of reasons and backup. Do you know what I mean? Like where they're like,
Right.
well, it's neither here nor there.
So this is sort of tangential to that, but we had an assembly today at school, and it was Toby Sumter came and gave the talk on confession of sin. And there was one part that I thought was so profound that he was saying he was talking about Psalm 51 where David is saying, is it 51, where he says, against you and you only have I sinned and done this evil in your sight. And it's like, but surely David,
surely you did something for
you
Uriah.
did something to Uriah. Surely,
Seems like it would have
know,
been a rough slog.
but he
for
says
him.
against you and you only.
Yeah.
And he really camped on this point for quite a while to say, like, the fact that we are sinning against God and not, like, we have affected others with our sin, and yes, we can have victims on a horizontal level, but primarily the offense is against God. And he said, this is the thing that separates Christian confession from pagan apologies. And he said, and it's because pagans, they apologize to each other all the time, but they can only see things on a horizontal level of like they messed up the relationship somehow, so now they have to put it right.
Right.
And he said, but the problem with that is if sin is only defined by the relational aspect, then basically it's ever changing, and you can't ever really fix it, because how can you ever know when
Right.
you've done enough to put it right? And he said it makes you at the mercy of everybody's feelings. They felt like you did something bad. They felt like their feelings were
and
hurt.
so you
They
have to
felt
continue
like a
to,
victim.
yeah. And if
And
you
he
say
said-
no against you and you only have I've sinned, then you know
Then
exactly.
it's very fixed.
Yeah.
It's a fixed point. And he's like, but this is why we have, and I was just thinking, oh man, like the fact that we've removed God is why feelings are the queen of the town. They really are.
Yeah.
Like if you hurt somebody's feelings, and you don't even have to have legitimately done anything, But if their feelings are hurt, then
Right.
you are by definition guilty, because that's the only measuring stick we have, is whether someone's feelings were hurt.
Right.
I was like, oh, that is actually so true. That as soon as you
I always
you
thought that was
eliminate that,
interesting about David and Bathsheba, anyways, because he apparently goes on to she's just one of his wives for forever afterwards.
well, and an ancestress of Christ.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just an interesting.
Yeah.
It's just an interesting kind of like I think it's not that it is an excuse for Christians to live in sin or something, but I'm saying that because it was like against you and you only have I sinned, that reconciliation with God, forgiveness with that makes going forward in life possible.
Yeah, and
When
and
you-
he's like, and forgiveness when it comes from God, it's like we know what the promise is and so forth. When we have to just wait until the other person extends forgiveness.
Right.
And he said that's how you end up with people who say things like, but I still feel hurt. I still feel like...
Strangely, you did not make it go
yeah,
away
like
with your apology.
you said you're sorry, but I'm still mad. I still feel wounded. And so there's no...
It's
like,
never enough.
well, you're completely at the mercy of the feelings of someone else rather than
Right.
objective,
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, I thought that was really good.
That is really good.
But here we are. It's 50 minutes.
All right,
we gotta
it's
go.
time to
We
be
gotta-
done.
We gotta wrap
It's been
this
good
puppy
to
up.
visit.
We didn't recommend something. You recommend something.
I'm reading, on audio. I'm listening to the book right now, To Say Nothing of the Dog, and it is making me laugh
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot. Have
Yeah.
you read it?
I have, but it was a long time ago, and it was very
actually
funny.
It's a very funny book. I was like, so
Yeah.
far, it was nothing like what I thought it was going to be. I don't know what I did think it was, but I gave it to Lena for Christmas, and then I was like, I should listen to that.
Yeah.
But now I've been getting a real kick out of it.
I
was
think
like,
we
this
gave
is-
it to Dad a few years
I was
ago
like,
for Christmas.
This is pretty truly witty.
Yeah,
Did
to
he
say
read
nothing
it?
of the dog. Yeah, I think so.
It's pretty funny.
Unless it was 3 Men in a Boat. Well,
3 Men in a Boat is somehow related
yeah,
to
it is.
it,
To
but it's
say
not the
nothing
same.
Of the dog
but
is the
it's not-
subtitle, isn't it?
Is
No.
it? No, 3 Men in a Boat is by a different author, but it's mentioned many times in this
that's
one,
it.
and it is 3. I think that somehow it got tied in with it.
Okay, I'm looking because now I'm 3 Men in a Boat.
The bottom of it is no, because To Say Nothing of the Dog is or How We Found the
No, it
Bishop's
is.
Bird Stump.
3 Men in a Boat in parentheses, to say nothing of the dog.
I know, but then I think that 3 Men in a Boat. This is by Jerome K. Jerome.
Yeah.
I feel like in To Say Nothing of the Dog, there's a lot of references to the 3 Men in a Boat.
Well, maybe.
And it's by someone named Connie Willis, I think.
Okay, that's funny. So I
There
was
must
thinking
be a
of this
story
one.
here that we're missing.
Yeah, I was thinking of this one.
Yeah, I guess the one that I have is this one by Connie Willis. That it is To Say Nothing of the Dog, and then I think that the subtitle is How We Found the Bishop's Bird Stump at Last.
Okay, that is not the one that I thought you were talking about. I
well,
thought it
it's
was...
quite funny, so I'm recommending it without having gotten to the end of it. It's quite good.
Okay, that's
All right,
funny.
talk to you all. Did
Well,
you have a recommend?
No, I'm you.
Only one from me, none
How
from
about
Becca.
3 Men in a Boat?
Yeah, we don't know the difference
We're
between
not
our recommends,
sure. No,
but
the
we'll find
recommends
out.
are a little hazy.
All right, talk to you later.
Bye.
Live a life